So this week, I had a conversation with an engineer from Google about the Pixel 3 XL, and there's a lot of answers to some of your questions, and you're probably going to want to stay to the end. Trust me on that one. If you already watched John Prosser's video on Front Page Tech, I'll clarify some of the questions that are still unclear, and give my view on some things that John and I don't completely agree on, but we're cool. And I'll share some information that I got from my sources today. Yeah, there's more. We'll jump into it right after this. Hey friends, this is Brendan here from This Is Tech Today, your source for honest tech reviews, how-tos, and the news, and you're watching This Is Tech This Week, a weekly show in addition to my other content where I go over tech news that personally interests me. And this week is another special Pixel 3 XL edition of This Is Tech This Week, and honestly, hopefully the last one. That's just been too much of a roller coaster. If that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. Otherwise, the Taiwan trolls will take over.
HTC Hipster Troll Car Wash!
Yikes, that might be a bit awkward. That'll make sense in a little bit. So if you've kept up with John Prosser and me for a while, you know that we've been covering a lot of the leaks and rumors around the Pixel 3 XL. It all started because John came up with this theory about the Pixel Ultra because he had a source that said that there was a third device. Leaks were happening everywhere and it seemed ridiculous. Oh, by the way, we found something in the Digital Wellbeing app earlier this week. Thanks to Vines on the This Is Tech Today Discord server, which you should totally join. There's a link in the description. There's a do not disturb animation and a reference to a Google chip. There's also something about Quantum IC in the Digital Wellbeing app. As far as I know, this has not been reported yet, so there you go, media. You're welcome. So it all started as fun and games, and then we had someone who reached out to us and said that they had some information. Honestly, we didn't like the guy. He was really outrageous in his claims, and he was honestly very manipulative and abusive. We always tried to find ways to debunk him, but he kept nailing these marketing timelines. And that's why John and I were always so uncertain about what we were saying, or even just thinking. It was just roller coaster. One thing about marketing timelines is that you can kind of guess those. So there is a room for him to just have a good track record just by looking at the past and what you would do if you work in PR. Which he does. I've received tons of questions from many of you about the illustrations and other potential leaks, and I've continued to dismiss all of it because ads for other products are not a good source for leaks for a phone, and illustrations can be generic designs. Yet our old source kept claiming that they were real, and we're just sick of it. We're sick of the manipulation and abuse. So we just had it with this person. We just wanted and had to cut ties with him. And if you want to hear about that story, I can tell you all about it after October 9th, but let me know if you're actually interested in that or not. Leave a comment, and yeah, it felt so good to cut ties with him. We actually became justified in cutting ties with him because we smoked him out of his cave. He was a fraud, a verified fraud. When I was doing that, I got my own source. So on Thursday, September 20th, someone that I've worked with before who goes by the name Secret Squirrel contacted me. This person helped me connect with some other sources in the past, and they let me know that they had a connection with someone on the Google team. The Secret Squirrel reached out to this person, and the source agreed to talk to me. But in order for us to do that, we had to establish so much security and, of course, verify the source. When we sought to validate the source, we were able to verify that this source did indeed work at Google. You know, kind of on the Pixel 3 XL. Yeah, can you imagine how crazy that was for me? I just filmed videos in my bedroom. So after we found a secure platform and verified a bunch of information to verify the source, and verified our information to ensure that our communication was secure, and then made sure that everything was untraceable, and on top of that, made sure that we were communicating through messages that expired after a period of time, we finally started to ask some questions. And honestly, many of these questions came from the This Is Tech Today community Discord and Twitter. What I learned through this experience is that in order to protect the source, you can't really ask direct questions and get direct answers back. It was like I was in some sort of spy film trying to protect our information and identity. And if you want to protect your information, especially if you're on a private network, you should check out a virtual private network from this video sponsor, NordVPN. NordVPN is rated one of the best VPNs out there and helps you protect your privacy. I've used a few VPNs before and they're super clunky to use and are slow. But with NordVPN, I simply installed, logged in, and connected to one of their 4,800 plus servers in 62 countries, and my internet speed was still nice and fast. It's great if you are traveling abroad and need to access region block content, or just send that one file to your peers while maintaining your privacy. You can use it on up to 6 devices at once, it works on various platforms and browsers, and they have a 24/7 customer service with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you sign up with the link in the description or use promo code TECHTODAY, you can get 2/3 off your subscription. Seriously, thank you so much NordVPN for supporting our community, and if you'd like to support the channel, please sign up. I'd really appreciate that. So what did I find out? Well, there's a lot of answers to a lot of the questions that we've had, and we've uncovered a lot of drama as well. First, let me go over the list of questions and answers. Then we'll talk about the crazy drama going on at Google and what that means for what's going to happen on October 9th and the future. Seriously, you're going to want to stay until the end. So here are the questions I asked and the answers and some of my thoughts. The first question, will the phone have a face unlock feature like the iPhone XS? The answer was, the focus is ultimately on speed and something that they've looked into, and ultimately to wait until the event. So I didn't get a clear answer on that. Either way, it'll be faster. I don't know if it's based upon a fingerprint or a face unlock, but I'll let you chew on that. The next question, is the screen 120 Hertz or anything fancy like that? The answer was no, it's not 120 Hertz. Actually, the screen is a bit boring. So the next question I had was about the illustrations that we found in Android Pie, the setup screen, and everywhere else, and the source said this: we make the chocolate, not the wrapper. So that leads me to believe that the illustrations are nothing more than a generic placeholder and not indicative of anything else. And I think it's foolish of Google to do this, but you know, it's Google. I've asked if the leaks that we've seen of the Pixel 3 and 3 XL are real, and the answer is yes. That's exactly what's coming out on October 9th. Sorry guys. But there is a whole ecosystem of devices coming out, so that's fun. Then I asked, is the Pixel 3 and 3 XL designed to be a mid-range device or a premium device? And then they told me that it was a premium device, and hopefully that doesn't mean the price is too high. Yes, I did ask whether or not they knew about it, and once again, it was one of those things where that's marketing's job, not this source. The next one's a good one. So I asked about Google DUPLEX, the ability to have Google Assistant make reservation calls for you, that thing that kind of had a bit of a hubbub earlier this year, and whether or not it was coming to the Pixel 3 XL. And I was told that it's something that's being worked on, but there are some bumps in the road right now. So that may mean that it is indeed coming out, but it may be delayed, and it may come out kind of like the Visual Core on the Pixel 2. The next question is, are the leaks intentional? And the answer is no, but there's always a false start. And that means that there's always one intentional leak. The rest of the leaks were not intentional, and our source told us to look into the source code of something. And here's the hint that was given to us. If I were a developer, I'd know where to look. So that makes me think that there's some information in an APK. I asked if this false start already happened, and the source seemed to indicate that it already did, but I'm not 100% on that part. This one is a common question for many of us. With all the leaks that have happened, why weren't the authorities involved? And the answer is, you try to investigate internally without leaving a paper trail. And this last question before the really good stuff is it possible to prevent leaks of a device, or is it just a thing that happens now? And the answer is, you can continue to plug the holes, but more will show up. It's easier to just go with the flow. So that means that the leaks were allowed. It wasn't necessarily fabricated. So here's where everything gets super interesting. So last month I talked about the conspiracy theory and how it could potentially make sense, and I actually had some sources within Google Protection and within manufacturing. What I didn't share in that video because it didn't fit in with the rest of the video was that there were some LG display fabrication issues at the Foxconn factory. When they started back up, security was actually lessened in that area to speed up production. So from the security team, they were identifying employees that seemed a bit unusual, and there was a particular employee that was associated with the logistics team. So that person who was in contact with the logistics partners and this whole leaking devices onto the black market, that may have happened from that spot. In information security, sometimes you allow things to leak so that you can identify that particular leak and plug up the holes. So that's the explanation for how all the devices leaked. But wait, didn't I say that security had increased in my last video? Yes, but I didn't really have all the context. But the source that I talked to last month indicated that HTC had their own separate setup for engineers only, and a separate room. And I would imagine this is a lot like those Apple secret rooms. And on top of that, there were some very large orders for test devices and manufacturing that were not being used. So the news source that we started talking to this past week indicated that there were some sourcing irregularities, which aligns with what the source said last month. Speaking of HTC, Google acquired HTC talent in January of this year. So our source said that when that happened, there were a lot of cultural conflicts. It was just hard to merge the two cultures together, and the whole environment completely changed. And then on top of that, performance goals were increased. And the source said that 3 strikes and you're out. And we're on the Pixel 3. So if the Pixel 3 does not meet sales targets, they're gone. So this is a slow phase of one team being replaced with another. So in the meantime, you continue on the path that you've already set with the Pixel 3 and 3 XL instead of restarting and doing things last minute and wasting a lot of resources that you've already invested. Unfortunately, in all of this, management is not being equipped to succeed or reach those targets that have been raised. Issues are continually being addressed, but more issues continue to arise. I don't believe that this was ever one team being put up against another team as Jon Prosser theorized. The reality is, the HTC team already won when they were purchased in January. Our source indicated that they significantly increased their manufacturing ability, but none of the resources were being used yet. That also lines up with what our source said last month, doesn't it? So it seems like all this equipment is being held for the HTC team to use, just not yet. Unfortunately, in business, when you have to deal with personnel, you have to find ways to deal with it in a way that doesn't create litigation. If you buy a team for over $1 billion, you're for sure going with them, and so you let things phase out over time. You set a target that can't be reached, and once the performance is underperforming, you let people go for that reason. And you don't use all the shiny toys on the HTC side while the other team is over there not getting anything. It sounds awful, but you kind of wait until they're gone. So with the teams being so separate from each other and one of them having a secret room with all the shiny toys and just not a lot of collaboration going on, there's very little input from HTC on the Pixel 3 and 3 XL. Now you may be asking, why then would they release the Pixel 3 and 3 XL? Why not put out what HTC is working on? The thing is, production cycles take a while, and when the Pixel 2 came out, the Pixel 3 was already in development. By the time the HTC talent was acquired, 4 months had already passed. Then you have to integrate them into the company, and yeah, it takes time to get all that started. So what we can say is that the Pixel 4 is already in development right now, and by the HTC team. So as a whole, it doesn't seem like people are too thrilled over there at Google. And as I mentioned in my last video, there's some ethical concerns about what they're doing as well. So here is the big nugget that I told you to stay around for. Is there a third device coming from the HTC team? What our source did say is that there is a third device coming, but there's not a lot of details that are known when you're not a part of the secret box. And this is an area that I would have to correct Jon Prosser on or disagree with him on. I believe that this is a moonshot device. But this is what I was told specifically from the source. You aim for the moon and accept the Earth. So that means that you aim for the best that you can, but you execute on what you can. Some websites have claimed to know what all the other devices are, but I'm not sure how you can know those devices if they're referring to the devices from the HTC team. If you can be on the other team and not know what the HTC team is actually working on, you'd have to have a source that's really deep in there to get that information. I also asked the source if Xiaomi was involved in any future Pixel lines or future flagship devices. I was told, we don't know what the future holds, but the possibility of something like that is being looked into. So again, that's another confirmation that the third device that's being worked on is not from Xiaomi, but from the HTC team and under the Pixel branding. What we do know is that the HTC team is slaving away like crazy right now, and there's significant manufacturing capacity that's not being used right now. What we don't know for sure is when it'll come out, but we were told that if manufacturing is being nice, we may have something in our stockings this year. So maybe we'll have something before the year ends. I did ask whether or not they were looking to compete with Samsung in the S10 and really ultimately trying to see if their release timeline had shifted from October to like a summer timeline, and they said no. I also asked how many devices were in the pipeline, and I was told that the devices do not fit on a standard dice. That means that there's at least 7 of them, including the Pixel 3 and 3 XL. Another reason why we feel that our source is accurate, we don't know who told the Russian tech site Mobile Review about the internal conflicts at Google and how many devices are in the works. So essentially, we've corroborated information from the Russian tech site and 3 to 5 other sources throughout Google, and we all get different perspectives on the same thing, and they all align. So if Google is trying to mislead us or buying me off, which they're not, although I would love to have a free device, Google, please. If they're trying to distract us from the Pixel Ultra, which doesn't exist, this would be incredibly difficult to do. You can't talk to all the sources that we've talked to and give them the same information to mislead us. And none of the sources that we talked to were in marketing. What a roller coaster we've been on, and I'm so glad to be done with it and to go back to restful nights. If you have more questions or thoughts, make sure to leave a comment down below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon if you haven't already. Thank you for watching This Is Tech today. You just watched This Is Tech this week. Until next time. Oh, and hey, have a great day.